Hi guys. Today I'll be reading from Frankenstein. Thought it was appropriate. Captain Walton's Letters. To Mrs. Seville, England, St. Petersburg, Russia, December 11th. I am already far north of London. I enjoy walking in the streets of Petersburg. I feel a cold northern breeze play upon my cheeks. It both chills me and fills me with delight. My daydreams about reaching the North Pole are now more exciting and clear. I do not believe that the North Pole is a place of frost and emptiness. I believe it is a place of beauty and delight. Think of the wonders that await me. I will see a part of the world that has never been visited before, and walk upon a land that has never been touched by man. I am so excited that I have no fear of danger or death. I feel only joy, like a child feels when he sets out in a little boat with his friends on a stream. To think, dear sister, that I will be the first man to discover a route to the North Pacific Ocean. What knowledge I'll bring to mankind. 6 years have passed since I decided to make this journey. It has been a dream of mine since I was very young. And now, dear Margaret, do I not deserve to accomplish some great purpose? I could have spent my life in luxury, but I prefer glory instead of wealth. I will leave for the northern town of Archangel in 2 or 3 weeks. I do not intend to sail for the North Pole until the month of June. When will I return? Ah, dear sister, how can I answer this question? If I succeed, many months, perhaps years will pass before you and I may meet again. If I fail, you will see me again soon, or never. Farewell, my dear Margaret. May heaven shower blessings upon you. Your loving brother, R. Walton. To Mrs. Seville, England, Archangel, March 28th. The time passes slowly here, where we are surrounded by frost and snow. I have hired a ship and am busy hiring sailors. But I am lonely. I have no true friend here, no one who is courageous, intelligent, and whose tastes are like my own. Well, these are useless complaints. I will find no friend on the wide ocean. I will leave as soon as the weather improves. The winter has been terrible, but spring is expected to come early. I may sail sooner than I had hoped. I love you very much. If you never hear from me again, think of me with affection. Your loving brother, Robert Walton. To Mrs. Seville, England, July 7th. My dear sister, I am safe and have made progress on my voyage. We have already sailed to the icy north. It is the middle of summer, but of course it is not as warm as it is in England. Goodbye, my dear Margaret. I will be careful, I promise you. But I will be successful. Why not? Nothing can stop the determined will of man. May heaven bless you, R.W. To Mrs. Seville, England, August 5th. A very strange accident has happened to us. Last Monday, we were almost surrounded by ice and a very thick fog. This was far too dangerous for travel, so we stopped the ship, hoping for a change in the weather. About 2 o'clock, the mist cleared away. All around us, we saw great sheets of ice that seemed to have no end. Some of the sailors groaned. Even I began to worry. Suddenly, we saw a strange sight. A sled pulled by dogs was moving toward the north, about a half a mile from our ship. The thing, which was shaped like a man, but gigantic in size, guided the dogs. We watched the traveler with our telescopes for some time. This filled us with wonder, since we were many hundred miles from any land. We wanted to follow him, but we were shut in by the ice. Before night, the ice broke and our ship was free. We stayed where we were until the morning, however. We did not want to risk hitting those large chunks of ice in the dark. In the morning, I found all the sailors busy on one side of the ship, talking to someone in the sea. There was a sled, like the one we had seen before, which had drifted on a slab of ice. Only one dog was alive, but there was a human being on the sled. The sailors were trying to get him to come aboard our ship. When I appeared on deck, the first mate said, "Here is our captain. He will not allow you to die on the open sea." The stranger spoke English with a foreign accent. "Before I come on board," he said, "will you kindly tell me where you are headed?" I could not believe he needed to know where we were going. If he stayed on his sled, he would die. I replied that we were on a voyage of discovery toward the North Pole. The man agreed to come on board. Good God, Margaret, if you could have seen the man who had almost refused our help, your surprise would have been endless. His limbs were nearly frozen, and he was terribly thin. I took him to my cabin to care for him. 2 days passed before he was able to speak. I've never seen a more interesting man. His eyes seem wild and sometimes crazed. But if anyone is kind to him, his whole face lights up. Most often, he is depressed and miserable. When my lieutenant asked him why he had come so far on the ice, he instantly seemed sad. He replied, "To seek one who fled from me." Did this man travel in the same way? Yes. Then I believe we have seen him, said the lieutenant. The day before we picked you up, we saw some dogs pulling a sled with a man in it. The stranger became very excited. He asked questions about the route which the demon, as he called him, had taken. Later he said to me, "I know I have made you curious." "Of course," I said, "but it would be very rude to trouble you with any questions of mine." He asked if I thought the breaking up of the ice had destroyed the other sled. I replied that the ice had not broken until near midnight, and that the traveler might have reached a safe place before that time. Since then, the stranger has been filled with a new spirit of life. He wants to be on deck to watch for the other sled, but he is far too weak for this. I have promised that someone will let him know immediately if any new object appears. I said in one of my letters that I would not find a friend on the ocean. Now I have found a man whom I would be happy to call my friend. August 13th. My guest has recovered from his illness. He is constantly on the deck, watching for the other sled. We often talk about my dreams and goals. I told him that I would give up my money and my life to complete this voyage. I told him I believe that one man's life is a small price to pay for knowledge and power. "Unhappy man," the stranger said in horror. "Do you share my madness? Have you drunk of the same poison? Let me share my tale with you. You will knock that cup from your lips." But he was weak from this outburst and could not go on. Later he said, but we are different. You have hope and the world before you, but I have lost everything and cannot begin life anew. August 19th. Yesterday the stranger said to me, I had decided that my memories should die with me, but you have convinced me to change my mind, Captain Walton. I see that you are about to suffer the same dangers. I think that you may learn a lesson from my tale. It may help you if you succeed on your voyage, or it may comfort you if you fail. prepare to hear about strange events. He then told me that he would begin his story the next day. I have decided, dear Margaret, to write down in the evenings what he has told me during the day. I am sure that this manuscript will give you great pleasure, and I will read it with great interest on some future day. How strange and disturbing must be his story. How frightful must be the storm that has tossed his soul, that gallant ship, and wrecked it so. Chapter 2. Frankenstein's story begins. My name is Victor Frankenstein. My family is from Geneva, Switzerland, where my father was a respected government official. My parents moved to Italy for a few years after they married. I, the eldest, was born in Naples. When I was about 5 years old, we spent a week at Lake Como in northern Italy. My mother always liked to help people in need. One day, my mother and I visited a poor cottage. A peasant and his wife lived there with 5 hungry children. One of the 5 did not look like the others. She was much more fair and thin. Her hair was the brightest gold. She had clear blue eyes. Her lips and the shape of her face were sweet. She seemed almost heaven-sent. The peasant woman explained that the little girl was not her own child, but an orphan. Her father was a wealthy Italian. No one knew where he was, or even if he was still alive. Her mother, who had died during childbirth, was German. The poor child had become a beggar. The peasants had taken her into their humble cottage, where she had bloomed like a rose. When my father came home, he was surprised to find me playing with the little girl. With his permission, my mother asked to adopt her. The peasants knew she would have a better life with my family, and so Elizabeth Lavenza became a member of my parents' house. I was glad that everyone loved Elizabeth. On the evening before she was brought to my home, my mother said playfully, "I have a pretty present for my Victor. Tomorrow he will have it." When she presented Elizabeth to me, I took her words very seriously. Elizabeth was mine, to protect, love, and treasure. Until death, she was to be mine only. We were brought up together, for we were only a year apart. We had different natures, but we loved each other. Elizabeth was calmer than I was. She loved to read poetry. She loved the shapes of the mountains and the changes of the seasons. She was happy just to enjoy life. I wanted to know what caused life, the how and the why of everything. To me, the world was a secret to be discovered. I wanted to uncover the hidden laws of nature. When I was 7, my brother Ernest was born, and we settled in Switzerland, our home country. We owned a house in Geneva, but we lived mainly in a country estate on Lake Bellerive. It was located about 3 miles from Geneva. My best friend was Henry Clerval, the son of a businessman. He loved adventure, hard work, and even danger. He would tell me of books he'd read about bravery and romance. He wrote songs and stories about knightly adventures. Two important things happened during my childhood that put me on the road to destruction. The first happened when I was 13. We all went on vacation to France. At an inn there, I found a book about alchemy. This is the name of an ancient science. Alchemists believed it was possible to make people live forever. They also believed that they could bring people back from the dead. This book fascinated me. I told my father about the book, but he called it sad trash. I did not know then that modern science had proven these theories wrong. No one believed you could bring people back from the dead. But my father didn't explain these things. I found more books by other alchemists and read them all with wonder and delight. My studies gave me great ideas. What if I could prevent the human body from becoming sick? What if I could make people safe from death? And these were not my only dreams. I dreamed of contacting ghosts or devils. The alchemists believed it was possible. The second thing that changed the course of my life happened when I was about 15. We were at our house in Bellerive, and as it happened, a scientist was staying there with us. One night, there was a violent thunderstorm. I watched the storm from the door as a bolt of lightning struck a tree near the house and burst into flames. The next morning, we went to look at the tree. It wasn't splintered. It had almost exploded. All that was left were thin ribbons of wood. The scientist explained to me about the power of electricity. This man's theories made me even more curious and gave me fantastic ideas. It was also about this time that a wonderful event blessed my family. My mother gave birth to another son, who was named William. When I was 17, my parents decided that I should go to the University of Ingolstadt in Germany. But before I could go, the first great sadness came to my life. It was a sign of my future misery. Elizabeth had caught scarlet fever and was close to death. My mother wanted to be the one to nurse her back to health. When we told her it was too dangerous, she did not listen. Elizabeth got well again, but 3 days later, my mother was ill. She did not recover. We mourned my mother's death for quite a long time. Professor Waldman taught chemistry. He was not like Professor Kremp at all. He had good posture, and he was a thoughtful, kind man. He talked about modern chemistry with a mellow voice. I will never forget what he said. Modern scientists have performed miracles. They dig into the hiding places of nature. They uncover how nature works. I was fascinated by the professor's words. So much has been done by scientists, I said to myself, but I will achieve even more. I will explore unknown powers. I will reveal to mankind the deepest secrets of the world. Professor Waldman did not laugh when I told him I had been reading about the alchemists. He called them men of genius. He then took me into his laboratory and explained to me the uses of the many machines. He also gave me a list of books to read about modern chemistry. I will never forget that day. It decided my future destiny. I became very involved in my studies. Professor Waldman became my good friend, and he helped me set up my own laboratory. There, I often stayed up all night working. 2 years passed. During this time, I wrote to Elizabeth and my family, but I did not visit Geneva. I worked so hard that at the end of 2 years, I made improvements to some chemical instruments. This brought me great respect at the university. I knew as much about physics as any professor. There was not much more that I could learn there, so I could have gone home. But listen to my tale, and you will know why I did not. I had become interested in the life that streams through the human body. Where did it come from? It was a brave question. I wanted to discover the answer. I decided to focus on the branches of science that relate to the human body.